Saturday of the 33rd week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the first book of Maccabees. As King Antiochus was traversing the inland provinces, he heard that in Persia there was a city called Elymais, famous for its wealth in silver and gold, and that its temple was very rich, containing gold helmets, breastplates, and weapons, left there by Alexander, son of Philip, king of Macedon, the first king of the Greeks. He went, therefore, and tried to capture and pillage the city, but he could not do so, because his plan became known to the people of the city, who rose up in battle against him. So he retreated and, in great dismay, withdrew from there to return to Babylon. While he was in Persia, a messenger brought him news that the armies sent into the land of Judah had been put to flight, and that Lysias had gone at first with a strong army and been driven back by the children of Israel, that they had grown strong by reason of the arms, men, and abundant possessions taken from the armies they had destroyed, that they had pulled down the abomination which he had built upon the altar in Jerusalem, and that they had surrounded with high walls both the sanctuary, as it had been before, and his city of Beth-zur. When the king heard this news, he was struck with fear and very much shaken. Sick with grief because his designs had failed, he took to his bed. There he remained many days, overwhelmed with sorrow, for he knew he was going to die. So he called in all his friends and said to them, "Sleep has departed from my eyes, for my heart is sinking with anxiety. I said to myself, into what tribulation have I come, and in what floods of sorrow am I now? Yet I was kindly and beloved in my rule. But I now recall the evils I did in Jerusalem, when I carried away all the vessels of gold and silver that were in it, and for no cause gave orders that the inhabitants of Judah be destroyed. I know that this is why these evils have overtaken me. And now I am dying in bitter grief in a foreign land." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "I will rejoice in your salvation, O Lord." I will give thanks to you, O Lord, with all my heart. I will declare all your wondrous deeds. I will be glad and exult in you. I will sing praise to your name, Most High. I will rejoice in your salvation, O Lord. Because my enemies are turned back, overthrown, and destroyed before you, you rebuked the nations and destroyed the wicked. Their name you blotted out forever and ever. I will rejoice in your salvation, O Lord. The nations are sunk in the pit they have made. In the snare they set, their foot is caught. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, nor shall the hope of the afflicted forever perish. I will rejoice in your salvation, O Lord.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Some Sadducees, those who deny that there is a resurrection, came forward and put this question to Jesus, saying, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us, if someone's brother dies leaving a wife but no child, his brother must take the wife and raise up descendants for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers. The first married a woman but died childless. Then the second and the third married her, and likewise all the 7 died childless. Finally the woman also died. Now at the resurrection, whose wife will that woman be? For all 7 had married her." Jesus said to them, "Children of this age marry and remarry, but those who are deemed worthy to attain to the coming age and to the resurrection of the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. They can no longer die, for they are like angels, and they are the children of God, because they are the ones who will rise. That the dead will rise even Moses made known in the passage about the bush, when he called Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And he is not God of the dead, but of the living, and to him all are alive." Some of the scribes said in reply, "Teacher, "You have answered well." And they no longer dared to ask him anything. The Gospel of the Lord.
The first reading comes from 1 Maccabees 6, 1-13. King Antiochus Epiphanes was the enemy of the Jews. He had decreed that they should no longer circumcise their children, that the sacred books should be confiscated and burned, and that people should be forced to sacrifice to pagan gods and to eat pork. He was trying to destroy the religion because he wanted everybody to follow a Hellenistic culture, to speak Greek, to worship the Greek gods, to be similar, because he ruled an empire that extended all the way across Asia, and he wanted them to be of a like mind. Well, here we hear about an episode in which he goes to the Persian city of Elymas in the hope of finding a great treasure that Alexander the Great had left there during his conquests. He is defeated, and on his way back, while he's still in Persia, he hears about the defeat that his forces have suffered against the Maccabees. The Maccabees, remember, were a family of Jewish priests who rebelled against the Seleucid Empire because they were being forced to do things that weren't allowable to their faith. Therefore, they rebelled and they continuously fought a guerrilla war, defeating forces, taking their arms, and reconquering Jerusalem, rededicating the temple. How does the Emperor Antiochus react to this? He falls into a depression and he dies. And that's supposed to be a sign of the punishment of God upon him for the way he treated the Jewish people. And in fact, in what is certainly an apocryphal account, he regrets the fact that he's being punished for persecuting the Jews. That probably didn't happen. It's a little bit of a literary invention. The Gospel is from Luke 20, 27-40. There are some Sadducees, and Sadducees were the royal family. They were people who were in the high priesthood. They were people who were very, very traditional in their approach to Scripture. They only accepted the first 5 books of the Bible as normative, and they didn't believe in angels, in revelations, nor did they believe in the resurrection of the dead. They believed that everyone who died went to Sheol. Well, they wanted to trap Jesus, so they told him a story about a man who was married to a woman. He died. They had no children. According to the Levirate marriage, that woman, the widow, now had to marry the next of kin, and they did. But he died, and she went through 7 husbands. The question they asked him, who will she belong to in heaven? And Jesus rejects that, because in heaven we won't belong to anyone. Will we love the people we loved on earth? Yes. In fact, that love will be increased, that love will be perfected. But it's not that our love is exclusive like it is here on earth. We can love everybody. And then Jesus also traps the Sadducees by quoting Scripture to them. And this is typical of the cleverness of Jesus. He's able to confound the Pharisees, the Sadducees, by quoting Scripture back at them. He says that God identifies himself as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Now, God can't be the God of the dead because they don't exist anymore. So they must still be living, even though they've died here on earth. Therefore, they must exist in some plane, in some dimension. They will, in fact, rise again from the dead. What did the scribes say? Well put, Master. Now remember, the scribes do believe in the resurrection, so they're thrilled that the Sadducees have been confounded. Jesus, like St. Paul, plays one group against another as he's teaching. What is very important in the day of Jesus was, number 1, Jesus teaches the resurrection of the dead. Number 2, he's clever. Cleverness was considered a very important virtue at the time of Jesus. It's knowing how to get out of a situation that's messy, knowing how to survive in difficult times. And Jesus is filled with that everyday wisdom. In fact, Jesus even challenges his followers. If you're clever about financial things, if you're clever about the things of the world, why can't you be clever about spiritual things? Why is it that you can never seem to find time to pray? Why is it that you don't know how to forgive people? Why is it that you don't find time to read Scripture? You find time for everything else. You're able to do anything else if it's really important. You have to do the spiritual things as well. And may God bless us.